Hey, shalom, shalom. I want to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostle, Nelson Great Millstone. Peace and salutation to you, brothers, pushing this truth throughout the four winds. Today I want to go into Yahweh Shai speaking, and something kind of grabbed my attention. Something Yahweh Shai said, and I pray through the Spirit this is edifying. This is Matthew chapter 5 and verse, I'm going to start at 2. It says, and he entered, he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So, getting a good understanding of poor and understanding what was meant by this. So when you go to that word poor in the Greek, it's reduced to beggary, asking alms, destitute of wealth, influence, position, honor. Okay? Helpless, powerless to accomplish an end, poor, needy, destitute of wealth, of learning and intellectual culture, which the schools afford. Now that key word right there I thought was culture. Okay? So when looking at this, when he said blessed are the poor in spirit, it gives you a sense of the poor part. You have to be poor of something. What are we poor of? Spirit. So when we go to that word spirit, it goes to the disposition or influence which fills and governs the soul of anyone. Okay? The efficient source of any power. Affection, emotion, desire, a movement of air, and it has a few things that it goes into. But we know when the spirit, blessed be the poor in spirit, it's telling us that you're going to be lost. And even when you come back into this truth, when you get that portion of spirit, it's not going to be the whole thing. That's why I said, blessed be the poor in spirit. Okay, because when something's poor, it's not at its full source. You'll see someone that's poor, but how do people look at them? They're not at full capacity. Here, it gave an example when it said poor, and it referred it to, for the most part, wealth. Okay, so this will go back to culture. We're not in our land. We lost our identity. And all of these things, that's why I said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall see the kingdom of heaven. We understand that Yahweh Shem Yahshua is with the lowly. Blessed are those that sigh and cry. Well, go mark those that sigh and cry for the abominations that be in the midst thereof. So through all of this, even Moses, he chose to be what? Poor. And dwell with his people. Okay? The key thing too in here is blessed. The word blessed, it says happy. Okay? So he's saying happy is the poor in spirit, for they shall see the kingdom. They shall see heaven. So understanding this, that we're going to be in a place of poverty, struggling, going through everything we go through, but the end is going to be for the betterment of everything. Okay? This is Jeremiah 17:4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. So our heritage, culture, the way we ate, our power, the way people looked at us, that will be ripped away. And we will be a cultureless people with no power in our hands. And that's how everybody would receive us. That's how everybody would look at us, like, man, they're poor. Don't nobody like them. You're the lowest of the low. But Yahweh Shem Yahshua said, blessed are the poor in spirit. Because we have the spirit, but the only thing is the amount that's turned on to us isn't at full capacity. But we have it. That's how we know this truth. That's how we know how to pray, we know how to fast. Even though we go through the things we go through, the Lord gives us exactly what we need, because we still have to finish out captivity. He gives us exactly what we need, but we still have to feel that sting of those curses. Okay? It says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue. So the word discontinue means to release, let drop, or loose, or rest, or fall. So what happened was, we fell. We fell from a place of being rulers, kings, priests, things of that nature. We fell from that to absolutely being poor and lowly. Okay. What was it? The dross, the gold lost its. I have to look it up, but it's basically saying and showing you that our value isn't high when it pertains to where we are right now. So we're lowly, So when he was saying blessed is the poor in spirit, the portion that we got of spirit would be not at full capacity. But when everything turns and this place is brought down, when that full capacity is turned up on that spirit, that's when he says they shall see the kingdom of heaven. Okay? That's when we'll be rewarded. That's when all the best things are going to be taking place. But we have to understand we discontinued from that full capacity of spirit that we once thrived in. Okay? And the word heritage, it says possession, property, inheritance. What are we supposed to inherit? Everything. What happened? We discontinued from it from being disobedient. Okay? So, portion, share, like our portion. We're the Lord's portion. So that spirit that he gave back to his elect and chosen men that can understand this word, it's a small sample of what's to come. That's why he keeps us right where he needs us, right where that spirit's supposed to be, because if he gave us too much, then it could set off something to where we're not moving the way we're supposed to move. And you wouldn't feel the sting of captivity that we're basically going through. It's good to know what we know, but it's no might and power in our hands right now, because that spirit that's in control, it's only going to allow so much. Okay? This is Matthew. Back in Matthew chapter 5, it says, happy are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Notice, he's going into everything that looks negative, but he's saying you're blessed in this position. Even though you have a small amount of access to this spirit, it's not going to always be that way. So he'll lead with blessed, and then he'll look to the common eye. It'll be something that we look upon as something that's like painful. No one wants to be poor. Okay? No one wants to mourn. But he's saying you're blessed in those positions because that spirit that's on you, it's going to basically carry you to the very end to where your prize waits. Okay? But you're not going to get that full dosage. That's why it says poor. Okay? It says, Matthew 5:5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So walking through this place, and it says, be angry but sin not. Like, I'm pretty sure every brother goes through times to where it's like, you just like, man, what is going on? You know, it just has this feel to it of like, when's the end? You know, when is the end? Like, when is this going to be over with? You know, but being meek and being in a place of allowing the Spirit to guide you and flow, the end is going to come. You know, you have to be patient. You have to understand all of these things play a role to where you have to go through them. Sometimes a panic will come over you, but you have to remain calm. Okay? It says, blessed are they which do hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Just look at some of the things we see on a day-to-day basis that's getting worse. Man, I'm talking about it is horrible. It's bad. And we're looking like, Lord, how long? But you know what I'm saying? That's thirsting and hungering for a peaceful place, you know, where women are in order. All of the nations fall under subjection to the Israelites, you know, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, to where we actually can see purity. You know, everything's in shambles right now, you know, but the way Yahushua leads with this, blessed, you know, because it's not always going to be in this place of turmoil and chaos. Okay? It says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Pure in mind. So your mind is thinking on righteousness. You know, you'll see something that's foul, that's vain, and you just know it's not right. And the thing you do now is you're like, all you can do is shake your head, you know, because you know it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fall in the proper lining of what you know is right. And most people, they'll set folly and great dignity, you know what I'm saying? So they'll look at something foolish and think it's nothing wrong with it. You know, folly is set in great dignity. Okay? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of the Most High. So having a cool demeanor, understanding what's going on, and as time moves on, you understand that never to think and move off of emotion. Never think and move, and don't be carnal. That's another thing I've been paying attention to, like on these social media platforms. A lot of these, and I can honestly say a lot of people is coming into the light of knowing who we are. But a lot of them, you can tell they dabble in all different camps, because some of the stuff they say is like, what? And then you'll know by looking at one camp, well, yeah, you can tell they watch them. And you can tell, okay, they watch them. Because it's like, it's just not adding up. You know, and a lot of them, they're very carnal. You know, I ain't finna be just blurting out no camp names, but there's certain camps that's very carnal. And if you go and read in the comments, you'll see the mind frame of these people. You know, you're not going to beat Esau with his own weapon. Picking up arms and trying to fight somebody who was blessed, that was his blessing, you're not going to win. You know, so don't be stupid. Okay? It says, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So he's saying, happy are the men or the elect for righteousness' sake, being persecuted. So possibly being killed for the right reason. A kingdom's waiting on you. He's saying you're blessed because of that. Okay? But the main thing I wanted to speak on was poor in spirit. So that spirit and that amount of juice from the spirit, for lack of a better term, that energy from that spirit, it's basically, it was set to us at a controlled rate. That's why it's called poor. Okay? But the end of it is going to be very powerful. Okay? You shall receive power once the Holy Spirit comes upon you. Okay? So when it's at full capacity, it's on. So this is Matthew 5:13. It says, ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? And that's the thing now. Even though we know who we are, the majority of people know who we are, whether believing it or not. They have a rough understanding of, well, these people have a point, But the thing is, we can go through the earth right now, dancing, basketball, football, track. We're the best at everything. But when it comes to the spiritual side and righteousness, nobody is looking at us like that's the proper leaders of this earth. Because that salt, the savor of it was taken away. So that savor is basically your heritage. When someone sees you in who you naturally are, the person that you are, the spirit that you walk in, they'll know the essence of that man is righteousness. Okay? But they can't see that because we lost our way. Okay? It says, it is thenceforth good for nothing. If you looked at the majority of people on this planet, and they looked at our race, our nationality, who we are, first of all, they don't even know who we are. But the first thing that's going to come to mind is going to be something negative, because that salt don't have its flavor. Think about this. We're only used for what we're good at. If you're good at sports, that's what you're going to be used for. You're good at singing, that's what you're going to be good for. Dancing, same way. So on and so forth. Like, they're looking at Jim Beam and a lot of inventors, and these recipes all go back to Jade. All of them go back to Jade. But what did they do? Took it, made it their own. Okay? We're not going to get credit for anything. And these are things that all goes back to not having that savor that we are naturally born to have, but it's coming back. Okay, it's coming back, and I hope this is edifying. I want to say all praise, honor, and glory to y'all.